Our scripture reading is taken from the Gospel of John, from the first verse up to the fifth verse of the fifth chapter. And we are reading from the NRSV English Translation Updated Edition. After this, there was a festival of the Jews, and Jesus went up to Jerusalem. Now, in Jerusalem, by the sheep gate, there is a pool, called in Hebrew Bethzatha, which has 5 porticos. And in these lay many ill, blind, lame, and paralyzed people. One man was there who had been ill for 38 years. When Jesus saw him lying there and knew that he had been there a long time, he said to him, "Do you want to be made well?" The ill man answered him, "Sir, I have no one to put me into the pool when the water is stirred up. And while I am making my way, someone else steps down ahead of me." Jesus said to him, "Stand up, take your mat, and walk." At once, the man was made well, and he took up his mat and began to walk. Now, that day was a Sabbath. Listening to this reading and to the preaching, may we receive God's blessing.
Thanks be to God.
Okay, so muli isang mapagpalayang hapon sa lahat. We are still on our Easter preaching series na may temang The Gift of Surprises. The Joy of Unexpected. So sa text na binasa kanina ni Rev Joseph, which is, ang title ng text na yun is, Jesus Heals on a Sabbath. Klaro na ang surprise element is yung pagpapagaling ni Jesus dun sa lalaki na paralyzed for 48 years. So we can only imagine the joy of this man for being healed after such a long time. So sa sobrang happy niya, pinamalitan niya ito sa lahat. Ngunit imbis na magalak, ay tila parang nainis pa yung mga tao. They said to him, "Uy, wait lang ha, sino ba yung nagpagaling sa'yo? Sino ba yung Jesus na yan? Di ba bawal yan? Di ba Sabbath ngayon, araw ng pahinga?" So sa pagpapatuloy ng kwento ng John chapter 5, sobrang OA ng reaction ng karamihan. Since mga Hudyo sila, yung ginawa na yon ni Jesus ay isang paglabag sa kanilang batas. Kaya't ganun na lang ang galit nila. Pero anong sagot ni Jesus? Ang Panginoon nga ay patuloy sa paggawa at pagkilos. And so I am working. So lalo pang lumevel up yung irita nila kay Jesus. Sabi doon sa verse 18, "For this reason, the Jews were seeking all the more to kill him, because he was not only breaking Sabbath, but was also calling God his own Father, thereby making himself equal to God." So very progressive yung eksena ni Jesus dito, no? Talaga namang nagpapakita ng radikal na pagmamahal. So pag tinuloy pa natin yung kwento na ito, marami pang eksena dun sa John chapter 5 nang balitaktakan ni Jesus with the Jews sa chapter na ito. At very consistent siya dun sa pagtawag sa Panginoon as His Father. Indeed, just as the Father raises the dead and gives them life, so also the Son gives life to whomever He wishes, sabi sa verse 21. At tila patungkol dun sa kwento ni Lazarus na bumangon sa pagkakaimlay. That story, among many others, ay parang hindi pa talaga enough for them to believe. Pero hindi napagod si Jesus sa pag-explain, sa pagpapaalala, at sa pagsisermon, gaya ng isang magulang sa kanyang anak. So as I reflect on this story from 2,000 years ago, napaisip ako kung meron bang mga similar stories sa panahon natin ngayon na very much like in the spirit of Jesus Sabbath healing. breaking the rules to restore life. Isa sa mga stories na hanap ko is yung story ni Dr. Paul Brand. Si Dr. Paul Brand ay isang missionary na doktor na kilala sa kanyang groundbreaking work para sa mga leprosy patients in India. Alam naman natin ang stigma about sa sakit na ito, na leprosy or ketong. And it goes back to the biblical times. Parang mas malala yung ketong kaysa yung Tagalog version, no? Mas scary yung yung effect niya kaysa sa leprosy. So in the mid-20th century, ganun pa rin yung dinaranas na malalang stigma. Kailan yung mid-20th century? So, mga nasa mid-1950s, ganon. Adlib yun, please. Ganon pa rin yung dinaranas na malalang stigma ng mga leprosy patients in many parts of India, kung saan ang mga may sakit nito ay tinuturing na untouchables and often left to die in isolation. And of course, maraming medical professionals, including doctors, would refuse to care for them. At hindi rin iba sa ating mga Pilipino yung kwento tungkol sa pag-isolate sa mga may sakit na ketong. We had an entire island dedicated for it. Remember Culion Island in Palawan? Si Pastora Cardino nga. Na ginawang leprosarium noong panahon ng American colonial regime noong Commonwealth era. Although nasugpo na yung leprosy sa isla noon pang mga around 1980s, the island was only declared a leprosy-free area by the WHO noong 2006. So despite social taboos and institutional resistance, Dr. Brand developed surgical techniques to restore the use of patients' hands and feet, proving that much of leprosy's damage was due to nerve loss and hindi yung sa disease itself. Di very familiar, no? I-connect natin sa HIV and AIDS. Madalas, people with HIV don't really die. Hindi mo makikita ang AIDS sa death certificate. So, very remarkable yung na pag-identify dito ni Dr. Brandon na pwede pa yung nerve loss pala yung issue nila ng mga patients. Proving that much of leprosy's disease was due to nerve loss at hindi yung disease itself. He would work on Sundays, holidays when necessary, emphasizing that compassionate care transcends human regulations. Just like our versions of doctors and teachers to the barrio, na piniling iwan ang kanilang mga komportableng buhay para maglingkod sa kapwa. The story of Dr. Paul Brand was told in the book The Gift of Pain, na co-authored with Philip Yancey, which blends medical insights with deep spiritual reflection. Si Philip Yancey naman ay isang American author who primarily writes about spiritual issues na related dun sa mga experience niya growing up sa isang strict na fundamentalist church. At ini-struggle ko pa yan si Philip Yancey. At marami siyang mga books na pinagninilayan ko at gusto kong basahin if Karen going reference. So last week nga, we commemorate the lives lost through AIDS sa International AIDS Candlelight Memorial. Ang HIV or AIDS na ata ang maituturing na modern day leprosy. Ako lang to ha. Or at least nung panahon ng AIDS crisis, na talagang grabe yung stigma about sa sakit na ito. Isa sa mga prominent figures na somehow nakapagpabago sa tingin ng mga tao sa sakit na ito ay si Princess Diana. Nakasulat sa isang article mula sa UPI or United Press International Archives, ito ang kwento. In April 1987, Princess Diana opened the UK's first dedicated HIV/AIDS ward at London's Middlesex Hospital. During the visit, she made headlines by shaking hands with AIDS patients without wearing gloves. A powerful gesture at the time when fear and misinformation about HIV transmission were rampant. This act challenged the prevailing stigma and demonstrated that HIV could not be spread through casual contact. Diana's compassion played a significant role in changing public perceptions about the disease. So yung pag-visit niya yon ay hindi lang symbolic, no? Or mema lang na parang yung mga politiko na dadalaw sa ospital, kakamayan yung mga patients, tapos magpapapicture, tapos exit na, alcohol, change outfit, ganon. Princess Diana spent time talking to the patients, listening to their stories, and showing genuine care. Treating them as fellow human beings. Simple lang naman sanang gawin ito, pero tila napakahirap para sa ibang tao nung mga panahong iyon. Diana used her global fame to bring attention to the AIDS crisis and humanize those affected by it. At isa pang prominent figure sa hanay naman ng pananampalataya na naisip ko ay si Pope Francis. Personally, talagang kakaiba yung effect ni Pope Francis sa akin dahil talagang binago niya yung pagtingin ko sa pagiging isang leader ng simbahan. Pope Francis is renowned sa kanyang profound gestures of humility and service, particularly yung practice of washing and kissing the feet of individuals mula sa diverse backgrounds. And apparently, itong tradition na ito ay rooted in the Christian rite of foot washing on Maundy Thursdays. Symbolizes Christ's act of humility and service to His disciples. So, immediately after niyang ma-elect noong 2013 as a new Pope, he began performing this ritual in unconventional settings. Gaya ng sa prison, mga participants from various faiths and walks of lives. At isa sa mga recent gestures niya last year was when he washed and kissed the feet of 12 female inmates in Rome's Rebibbia prison, emphasizing inclusivity and compassion. Isa pang particularly poignant na moment happened noong April 11, 2019, during a spiritual retreat at the Vatican ng mga leaders of South Sudan. In an unprecedented act, Pope Francis knelt and kissed the feet of President Salva Kiir and opposition leaders, including Riek Machar and Rebecca Nyandeng de Mabior, imploring them to maintain peace in the war-torn nation. This gesture was a powerful appeal for reconciliation and unity, reflecting the Pope's deep commitment to peace and humility. So sa mga gantong gestures, Pope Francis has consistently demonstrated yung commitment niya to breaking traditional boundaries, promoting inclusivity, and embodying the principles of humility and service na very central or centric sa kanyang faith. The stories of Dr. Paul Brand, Princess Diana, and Pope Francis are like the stories in our text, where someone helps or heals another person despite cultural, legal, or religious restrictions. After all, love is the fulfillment of the law. Tama, mali? So habang pinagninilayan ko yung text na ito at kung anong magandang title, naalala ko yung isang chapter sa book ni Ryan Holiday na Ego is the Enemy, entitled To Be or To Do. Na sobrang life-changing to para sa akin, di ba, Joseph Pastor? Ayun. Sobrang life-changing niya para sa akin. Kasi that time or before, punchline ko lang to eh. Di ba? Narinig niyo na ba yun? Kay Ate Gay yata galing tong to be or to do. To-be-do-be-do. Di ba? From joke to a life-changing eksena. So pero mas malalim at personal yung atake niya for me. This chapter explores the internal conflict between pursuing recognition or yung to be versus pursuing purpose and impact or yung to do. Simply put, it's asking us the question, do you want to be someone or do something? To be someone means chasing titles, prestige, and status na often driven by ego. Or do you want to do something and focus on meaningful work, continuing value and making a real impact, often quietly without fanfare? Ang check ni Holiday dito is that ego pushes us to be or to seek approval, rewards, and validation, which can distract us from the true goals. Those who choose to do prioritizes substance over image and are more likely to create lasting change. Sa ating buhay, we must decide whether our actions are guided by the desire to look important or the desire to do important things. The path to humility and purpose is ultimately more fulfilling and impactful. Sa totoo lang, mas madaling tsumeka na lang about things we want than to actually work on it, di ba? Para sumakses. Step by the step. Pero pag puro kasi chika na lang, wala na. Parang, wala nang step, di ba? So as I close on this preaching, naisip ko lang na as human beings, we can only do so much. Pero bilang mga followers ni Jesus Christ, we are reminded to focus on the work itself. Sa pagkilos, sa paggampan, sa pagtulong sa kapwa. The main thing, di ba? Kaya walang silbi yung pagkuda-kuda at pag-preach na yan kung hindi naman nakikita or wala namang pagkilos at pagbabago. Tinapos ko na doon. Hindi ko na didagdag. Baka mabembang na tayo. Let us continue to strive to be a follower of Christ na hindi lamang sa ating isip, hindi lamang din sa ating mga salita, kundi pati na rin sa gawa. Salamat po.